I want to take this moment because you spoke about President Trump, and he may be watching right now. And I just want to speak directly to the president, which is that I will not be a mayor like Mayor Adams who will call you to figure out how to stay out of jail. I won't be a disgraced governor like Andrew Cuomo who will call you to ask how to win this election. I can do those things on my own. I will, however, be a mayor who is ready to speak at any time to lower the cost of living. That's the way that I am going to lead this city. That's the partnership I want to build, not only with Washington, D.C., but anyone across this country. I think it's important because too often the focus on the needs of working class Americans, working class New Yorkers are put to the side as we talk more and more about the very kinds of corrupt politicians like Andrew Cuomo that delivered us into this kind of crisis.
That was Zohran Mamdani last week on Fox News, talking past his competition and directly to President Trump. The Democratic candidate, however, still has a general election to win next month to become the next mayor of New York City. Joining us now, the independent nominee in the New York City mayoral race, Andrew Cuomo. He served as governor of New York State from 2011 to 2021. It's good to have you here on the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I'll give you a chance to respond to that. And can you speak directly to Donald Trump the way Zohran Mamdani did about perhaps policies that you deeply disagree with?
Oh, yeah. Can I speak to Donald Trump? Yes, and I did for many years. I was governor, he was president. We went through probably the most difficult time in this country in modern history during COVID. I would do a morning briefing, I don't know if you remember, and then he would do an evening briefing, and we had a daily back and forth. We had daily battle royales on his policy versus New York because we had COVID first. So the nation was trying to figure it out. The world was trying to figure it out.
But he's president now. I mean, are there policies that you vehemently disagree with? And would you be able to push back or say even now on television what it is that you disagree with and you think is fundamentally wrong for this country?
Oh, yeah. No, look, I think not only could I push back, but I can push back effectively, right? Donald Trump is smart. He picks the fights that he knows he can win. You fight with me, you fight with New York, that's going to be ugly, Mika, and he'll probably win because he's the president, but he's going to know that he was in a fight. And you look at what he's doing now, put the shutdown aside, just cut off infrastructure funding for New York, which was purely gratuitous as a tactic in negotiating with the Congress. The weaponization of the justice system is just out of control. And to me, that's the most frightening part. If there was one piece of the government and the democracy that was supposed to work, it was the justice system, right? We don't put people in jail because of politics. You know, Putin does that. And that's now almost a weekly occurrence, and people don't even raise an eyebrow anymore. The threats against New York, this sending the National Guard as political theater, which the president likes to do. You know, it's his way of saying the Democrats can't manage anything. The Democrats are dangerous. I'll send the National Guard. When I was governor, he sent the National Guard to 20 cities. You know what city he didn't send the National Guard to? New York. Because he couldn't say New York was out of control. Governor Cuomo didn't know what he was doing. So I think the fact that I will govern well. I know what I'm doing. I was a cabinet secretary, attorney general. I was a governor. I know how to do this. Forecloses him from that easy claim of this situation's a mess. I have to send in the National Guard. The president has to step in because the Democrats are incompetent.
Right.
That's his theme.
Right.
Joe.
So, Governor, let me, since it's a local race, I want to talk about the local race and not just talk about the American president, but there are a couple of issues, obviously, that the president has made himself a part of that impact New Yorkers who are going to vote for you. So the first question is just a sort of a nuts and bolts question. He's stripped funding for an extraordinarily important tunnel connecting New Yorkers and New Jersey. Also, a very important subway station inside of New York. Do you have the relationships? Do you have the ability to sit and talk to the New York delegation, Republicans and Democrats alike, if you're mayor of New York, and get that money reestablished. Because, I mean, that is, again, that's the nuts and bolts of politics, like working with your relationships and getting them to push the White House to put that funding back for their constituents. Can you do that?
Yeah, 100%, Joe. I worked with them for 11 years, but they can't get it done, right? This president is the 800-pound gorilla. It's not like it used to be when you were there and I was there and the delegation could actually work with the president and the delegation would negotiate. This is all about the president. Well, look, I don't think this is in the president's interest, what he did. He cares about New York. He knows New York. He knows New Yorkers. And cutting off the funding for the Cross Hudson Tunnel is not just bad for New York. Those are all the trains that go to the Northeast. Stopping the Second Avenue subway, that is an historic extension. I did the first half. That would be a great win for the president, for the federal government, for the city. So this is self-destructive on his part, I believe. And that's the argument you want to make. This is bad for you, Mr. President.
Right. Right. So, secondly, let's talk about the National Guard. The president has threatened from time to time to send the National Guard to New York. He's backed off of it, but sometimes he goes back and talks about it again. I really quickly, and then want to get to some other issues. But first, talk about how safe New York City is compared to other major metropolitan cities, and why sending the National Guard to New York City really just doesn't make any sense at all. And secondly, a concern that I've brought up as a small government conservative. I know a lot of libertarians fear it. I'm sure there are people that wouldn't normally vote for Democrats that fear it too. And that is people without, plainclothes people, no identification, wearing masks in unmarked cars or vans, grabbing women off the street, grabbing men off the street, grabbing younger people off the street, and throwing them into the back of the van and never identifying themselves. It seems to me that is a recipe for some really dangerous, even non-governmental action. Like criminals can start doing that and say, don't get in our way or we're going to arrest you. What do we do to stop that?
Yeah, 100%, Joe. And that's why when I was governor, I passed the law, the sanctuary law. New York City has a sanctuary law that regulates, if you will, what ICE can do and balances and makes sure that due process is in place. We would provide an attorney for every person who was brought in to make sure their legal rights are protected. But what the president does, if you notice, is he finds opportunities in cities where he can make a credible case that the city is out of control. And Democrats, Republicans, crime and fear are the great unifier. And that's one of the areas where the Democrats lose, right? When those suburban Democrats around the central city feel that the city is unsafe, crime rate is high, a number of high-profile incidents, that's when the president sends in the National Guard. And that's when many of those Democrats in those cities and those suburbs would say, well, he's right. The crime is out of control.
Yeah. So one final question, then we'll turn it over to the rest of the panel. This is a race that most people have been saying has been over for, quite some time. You look at a pair of recent polls. One has you still significantly behind Mr. Mamdani, but a new poll has come out that suggests that if Curtis Sliwa gets out of the race, and that's a big if, but if he did, you would actually be neck and neck with Mamdani. Right now, is Curtis Sliwa doing more than anybody else to guarantee that Mamdani is the next mayor of New York?
Well, yeah, good point, Joe. First, it's an interesting race, I think, on a couple of levels. Number one, on the polls, as you said, Me and Mamdani, it's basically statistical dead heat, which is shocking since he is the Democratic nominee. 70% of the voters in New York City are Democratic, and it's almost reflexive in New York that you vote for the Democrat, right? You don't even think. You just go and you pull the Democratic lever. He's not at 50%. He hasn't been at 50%. So that is shocking. With Curtis, he is a perpetual Republican candidate who's on the ballot. He's a New York City shock jock, as you know. And he's getting a certain percentage right now, which is what's keeping me below Mamdani. I believe you're going to see Curtis's vote collapse. We went through this in the primary. He's not a viable candidate. He's not going to win. People don't waste their vote in an election like this. So I think you'll see a natural compression. I was in a primary. People were at 18 points, wind up at 3. People are at 8 points, wind up at 1. So I think you're going to see Curtis collapse naturally. But what you're seeing is the tension in the Democratic Party between the far left and the quote-unquote mainstream. And that's an important dynamic, Joe, because that's the future of the Democratic Party. And this extreme left is taking the Democratic Party out of the mainstream. Mm-hmm. And we see it over and over again.
So it is 8 o'clock on the East Coast, top of the hour. We're speaking with New York City mayoral candidate Andrew Cuomo. And Jonathan Lemire, you have the next question.
Yeah, certainly the Democratic primary a few months ago, Mamdani did win. And we saw then results from the primary and polling since that part of his strength has been really appealing to young voters. There's been new voters out there, a lot of new enthusiasm. So my question to you is, and some of that is about his arguments on affordability, but some of it is also a call for the party, for the Democratic Party, for generational change, new face of leaders there. What would you do for young voters?
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. He had a big turnout on 20 to 30-year-olds. Part of that is fresh face. Part of it is we're socialists now, because remember, this is Democratic socialists. I'm now a moderate Democrat. By the way, how I became a moderate Democrat, I don't know. I was a crazy liberal all of my life, son of a crazy liberal. But now I'm a moderate. So it was, we're all socialists and anti-Israel. And anti-Israel first, Jonathan. That's what was the driving passion in that primary. Less than fresh face, et cetera. Young people are right. Affordability is an issue. And by the way, affordability is not a new issue, right? It was an issue in the presidential election. It's been an election for decades. It's been an issue for decades, really, right? The affordability for the middle class. So it's not a new issue. They're right about the problem. The rent is too darn high, but he has no real solution. You know, these are gimmicks. These are slogans. Freeze the rent is his answer, which is there's no such thing. You have to build affordable housing. It's supply and demand. We have a 1% vacancy. And if you don't build housing, the rents are going to go up. And that's shame on you, Democratic Party, because you haven't delivered. The Democratic Party, I think the two main issues, they have become disconnected from mainstream working families who were our base, my father's base, Bill Clinton's base, President Obama's base. We're not at their kitchen table, number one. And number two, we don't produce. We don't deliver. Senator Ted Kennedy, God rest his soul, told me as a young fellow before I ever ran for anything, when people walk into the voting booth, they have to know one thing you did that changed their lives. You can't name something that the Democratic Party did that changed their lives, right? That they know inherently. The Democratic Party has to produce. The far left runs Mamdani for mayor, 33 years old, never had a job, never managed anything, An assemblyman passed 3 bills, worst attendance record in the New York State Assembly. As a mayor, as an executive, as somebody who's supposed to get things done, no, that's going to compound the problem.
Go ahead, Ahmed.
First of all, Governor, it's Mamdani. This is a very big, diverse city you want to lead. We should get the names right. Self-awareness is such a powerful thing in politics. You can't beat what you don't understand. You seem very dismissive of his support, but his support has been overwhelming, and you know, he won the primary. His support is overwhelming the polls now. You come from a storied political family. You talked about your dad. You've been governor. You've had these big jobs. You have astonishingly good political networks, connections, bases of support. What is your most self-aware understanding of what you failed to see in advance that would allow a 34-year-old upstart to be beating you so badly? What did you not see and understand about people who are living in the city and what they're feeling and going through?
I did not see the energy of the 20 to 30-year-olds. I didn't see I knew the affordability issue. I didn't think they would accept the freeze the rent one slogan as an actual answer, and that we wouldn't get deeper and beyond that, because the rents are the problem. It's just there is no answer that has been posed. It's not about freezing the rent. I'm the former HUD secretary. I know how to build affordable housing. I know the issue. I know the answer. But we just never had a real discussion about it. And that I didn't foresee. And I didn't see the anti-Israel anger. I didn't see that. I didn't see how that was going to motivate people in a mayor's race. I saw the anti-Israel anger. It was on the street. But you are going to vote for mayor based on your opposition to Israel? Last time I checked, the mayor doesn't have a lot to do with foreign policy. You know, I don't see the mayor walking in and out of the United Nations. But you use that as a vehicle to express your anti-Israel anger, which was in the middle of the most heated moment of the conflict. I didn't see that connection. You would vote for mayor because you're anti-Israel.
I will say, I think for a lot of voters, it's more of a proxy for your level of solidarity with people who are on the wrong end of power. And for a lot of people, there's a generalization of different struggles there. I wanted to ask you, it's 8 years since the kind of peak of the Me Too movement. You were one of the men caught up in that conversation. Some of those men from that era are out of public life forever. Some are never left. You were back running for this race. I'm curious, did you go on a journey in the last 8 years of any kind of personal transformation? Was there any kind of reflection you got, any help you got? You know, I think people can change. I wonder if you pursued any kinds of changes in yourself that would allow you to come back to City Hall and tell voters you'd be different in any meaningful way when it comes to dealing with women than you were when you were last in office? Well,
it was a journey. It was an expedition. It was the hardest thing I went through in my life. And I've gone through a lot. When the allegations were made, you're right, it was the heat of the Me Too movement, and there was a lot of political energy. I said at that time they were false, and that I did nothing wrong, but there was such intensity about it, and especially among Democrats, right, that there was like zero tolerance and nobody wanted to have a real conversation. The report, I then spent 5 years living through it. The report went to 5 district attorneys, Democratic and Republican, highly political, had to go through it with each of one of them, 4 years then in civil litigation, depositions, witnesses, etc. At the end of the day, nothing came of anything. I was dropped from the cases. So it was what I said it was. There was no there. And that's why I'm in a position where I can come back. But in the meantime, did I learn? Certainly. Look, there is a new sensitivity, an evolving sensitivity culturally about behavior and what behavior is right or wrong, or what I might find offensive. And it doesn't matter whether you agree or not. If I find what you said offensive, then it was offensive. And it's my standard that matters. And I should have been hyper cautious, because you have to be hyper cautious, right? Because anything you say, I might find offensive. So you have to be hyper cautious. I have to be more cautious. I learned that lesson. I paid a very high price for that lesson. And it's not a mistake I'm going to make again. I won't even meet with a person alone anymore. I want to witness now to every conversation, every interaction. But it was a painful process, not only for me. We were chatting before. I have 3 daughters, 30, 28, and 28. And
have they helped you kind of figure out? They're obviously in the world also. Have they helped you figure out ways to evolve?
We had many conversations about it, right? And they are in that age bracket, frankly, where they have an evolving set of sensitivities, and they hear things differently than I say them, actually. You know, even words have different meanings. So, yes, a hypersensitivity. I said, look, if I offended anyone on any level about anything, I apologize. If I said something about your jacket and you got offended, I apologize. And I do that as common fare.
Let's get back to the race, and I want to know, as we close here, on affordability, what is your plan? What is your pitch to voters?
Mika, there is no short answer on affordability. First, on housing, which is the main cost. You have to build more housing. You need greater supply. I believe you can identify 80,000 units in the first 100 days. But shame on the Democratic Party for not having invested in HUD and not having really had that affordable housing stock, because it's a problem not just in New York City, it's all across the nation. That's number one. Number two, you have to help poorer New Yorkers. The socialist movement provides universality, right? Child care for everyone, free for everyone, rich included. Forget that. Focus on the people who need the assistance. Free buses, free subways for working New Yorkers who can't afford it. Additional food subsidies on top of the federal program SNAP for New Yorkers who have food insecurity because of the high cost of groceries. No taxes up to $77,000 because New York City taxes are so high. And then the best thing, one of the best things I did as governor, I raised the minimum wage to $15, the highest in the United States of America. I would raise that to $20. Which would make a dramatic difference in people's lives, but could also be absorbed by business, because you don't want people to lose their jobs because you raise the minimum wage too high.
Independent nominee in the New York City mayoral race, Andrew Cuomo, thank you very much for coming on the show and joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, we're going